Okay, I think we'll start with the session. I see almost 20 odd people have joined. We'll initially we'll start with a high level overview and some introductions. So yeah, all right. So we are very happy and excited to kick off the Agentic AI Masterclass series by OutSystems User Group Mumbai. This is going to be the first of a series of 5 or 6 sessions where we have very expert and extremely well recognized experts and MVPs. Other than me, I'm not an MVP, but there are many other MVPs and champions who will be joining and taking sessions. So please be on the lookout for the next session links. Also, I will be sending them out along with the summary email or closure email for today. Uh, any of you who want to be tagged in the LinkedIn post, do let me know. DM me in the chat, and I will be sure to add you to the LinkedIn post as well. All right. So the objective of these sessions are to keep the momentum going. If we can have a quick show of hands of how many of those who have attended raised, participated in the zombie versus agents versus zombie challenge. A quick show of hands. All right. Oh, okay. I think I need to enable presenter mode for you guys to be able to participate. Hold on a second. Let me try and let me try and give presenter mode to as many people as I can. Okay. Anuj, if you could also just parallelly see and add people on presenter mode so that we can have
Sure,
some
sure, Subbu.
interaction
I'll,
as well.
I'll take care of that.
I wonder if we can add this in the meeting settings somewhere.
Sure, I'll check.
Okay. All right. So I did see quite a few hands out there. So great. So the idea is to keep that momentum going and learn more about how to get started with Agentic AI. This is also a good session for those who are new to OutSystems as well. Today's session especially, because we will try and go into the basics of how do we get our environment up and running and create a basic agentic app. All right. Okay. So let me introduce myself. My name is Subramaniam Iyer, or also known as Subbu. I will be taking the session on unveiling the basics of agentic AI with OutSystems today. You can find my LinkedIn credentials and my ADP list credentials, which is on the screen. Feel free to connect with me during the session or even after the session. And yeah, we will be posting this on the user group page as well, so you can always go back and connect. Okay. So let's understand broadly first. Let's set the context of what is an AI model, what is an AI agent, and what is an agentic workflow. Yeah. So while they all seem similar, they have some distinct differences in terms of what each one of them can do. So let's understand what are AI models, right? So AI models can be large language models or small language models. These are transformer models. These are machine learning models which have been trained on trillions and trillions of data points, which allow them to predict the next word in your request. So when you give it a prompt, when you give it a user request, its job is to basically predict the next word. But because it's been trained on so many different data sets across various domains, they have the ability, or they're able to present the ability to do reasoning, create answers which are well structured, and give you a very useful way to be able to interact with the large amount of data sets that is available. In your models, you typically have two types of models. You have LLMs, or large language models, and you do also have SLMs, or small language models, which architecturally are the same, but the LLMs are typically 8 billion or 9 billion parameters and larger, and your SLMs are till 7 billion parameters. Advantages are LLMs can handle larger context windows. They have they have a lot more advanced reasoning capabilities. They can maintain, because of the large context window, they can have persistence across longer conversations, whereas SLMs have a shorter context window, have lower number of parameters, and are well suited for highly optimized specific tasks. So one good example of an SLM application could be for data scraping from a document, where you have a limited context window, you have a clear instructions in terms of what needs to be outputted, and you can get the output in a structured output format rather than natural language, making it easier and more efficient for that particular task. Now, um, the larger context models, they are better at reasoning. So something that requires to handle large volumes of data, for example a coding application, or AI assisted coding, where you want it to go through a large code base and be able to utilize it and modify it accordingly, their LLMs would be better suited. Yeah. Now, what is an AI agent? An AI agent uses an AI model as its brain, but it also has additional capabilities of autonomy. It is designed with a specific goal in purpose, with a specific purpose defined. It has the ability to handle perception or prompts and data from multiple sources. It has the ability to do reasoning, and then, most importantly, take an action on behalf of the user. Now, with the implementation of memory and the above characteristics, an agent can effectively mimic an individual and leverage the AI's ability of taking non-standard inputs or non-discrete inputs and converting them into a decision or an action. Now, an AI agent, where we should be using AI agents and where we should use automations, is something that we will go into in a larger depth in another session as well, which is planned. But broadly, if it's a very deterministic, very clear cut, logically written requirement, then that is something that a typical logic, your low code, no code platforms, you can define the logic and execute it. But if the input is generally non-structured, or if there is variation and a little bit of ambiguity in the logic where there is interpretation required, that is where you would use an AI agent. So a good example of this would be, um, if you have a user sending a customer request, where in natural language you need to understand the customer request and then classify it as a type of customer request and create that ticket accordingly, then that is something where you can use an AI agent for. Versus if you have a customer portal and you're capturing all of the data and you are simply wanting to create a ticket, that could be done through an automation process, especially if you have a structured input mechanism. Yeah. And then, this is AI agents. What are agentic workflows? So agentic workflows are where you have either one or more AI agents which are executing tasks autonomously to achieve a certain goal. Again, now here, unlike your typical AI agent which is defined for one problem statement, here you may have a multi-step approach where you have a planning phase, you have the action execution phase, you have a reflection phase, and then you have the iteration phase. So think of it in An example of, let's say, we have many of us creating content on LinkedIn or in other marketing, creating marketing campaigns. You give it a process, so you have multiple agents. You have one agent doing research, you have one agent doing the creative writing, you have another agent reviewing the output of the creative writer, and based on that doing an iterative approach with a marketing agent or a marketing expert agent, orchestrating these agents and getting the output and eventually giving the output to the end user. Yeah, so that is what an agentic workflow would be. Now let's understand at an overview what we've discussed so far, right? So an AI model is essentially stateless. It is limited to that interaction. It does not, when you have multiple chats with that AI agent or with that AI application, it does not retain memory automatically. It is stateless. It is general purpose. Typical examples are like chatbots, and you get a prompt output for the question that you've asked. An AI agent uses memory systems to derive state persistence. It has a defined goal for which it is designed. It has the ability to call tools and take actions, and therefore is can operate in an autonomous manner. And an agentic AI workflow is nothing but multiple agents in a framework called MAPE, which is basically you monitor your state, you analyze, you plan, you execute, and you continue that till the time you get an output which is suitable or meets the requirements. You can implement complex workflows, and you have multi objective agents as a part of the agentic AI workflow. Yeah. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to put it in the chat, and I will get to them whenever we can take a short break. Yeah. So, any questions so far, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay. So, how do we get started with agentic AI on OutSystems? So, first and foremost, create a personal environment. Yeah. How many of us have created a personal environment so far? Is there anyone who hasn't created their own personal environment? Okay. Now, the second is to configure your AI models, and then we will do the training on the agentic AI training to build your first app. So, uh, is there anyone who does not know how to create your own personal environment? So it's very simple. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go through that process. Yeah. Okay. So you go to outsystems.com. Let me share my screen again. Right. Um, Go to OutSystems. Okay. Now you can log in, and once you log in, if you don't already have a personal environment created, it will give you the option to create your own personal environment. So right now, since I already have created a personal environment, I can see the Open OutSystems tab. But for you, you will see a create my personal environment. Click on that, and it'll spin up a personal environment for you. Once it's up and running, then you can click on Open OutSystems to create your personal environment, to open your personal environment. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and open our OutSystems environment. All right. You're able to see my screen. You can see the
Yeah, we are
app.
able to check.
Okay, great. So now let's for agentic AI, the first thing that we need to do is to configure our AI models. So when you click on the AI models tab, it will open up AI models. By default, you will have these two models only set up. This is something I have set up, but I will show you how to set up these one by one. Okay. So when you click on add an AI model, you get a bunch of options that you can integrate with readily. You can integrate with Amazon Bedrock, Azure OpenAI, Databricks, Mistral, Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere, AI 21, IBM Watson, and you can also create your own custom connection. Custom connections are very useful when you want to integrate something that's not already provided here. But be aware of a caveat: it currently supports integration only via the OpenAI API spec, right? So I'm going to show you that example. So when you add an endpoint, it will ask you for a chat completions URL. This is a OpenAI spec uh, endpoint pattern. Yeah. So some of the other AI providers who may have a different URL endpoint, you may need to create a custom plugin for that. But I think this handles most of the popular endpoints fairly well. So let me go ahead and show you how I've configured some of my existing models. So when you want to use one, these two models are already defined, but if you wanted to sort of add the model, if you click on the trial models, these are the trial models you can select and add. Now, when you want to add a custom model, so in this case, I've added a Gemini model and I've added two custom local models as well. Gemini is slightly different in the sense that the endpoint does not adhere to the OpenAI structure that we saw. So let's go ahead and click on that URL. So you have the name of the endpoint that you mentioned, the model ID, the URL, and then the API key, right? And then close it. So what I'll do is, as a part of this exercise, let me go ahead and add one more Gemini model, right? So this is your 2.5 flash. I'm going to go ahead and add a Gemini 2.5 uh, uh, Pro. So let's go and add that. Now, do you know how to get a Gemini token? If you don't, we can do a quick look at that as well. So go to Studio, uh, AI Studio for aistudio.gemini.google.com. I will put this URL in the chat. If you want to follow along, you can follow along. Let me come back to the chat here and dropping the URL there. Okay, it appears there is an issue with the chat. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, are you able to see the URL I've dropped in the chat?
I'm able to see.
Okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead and you can open that URL. Now, when you log in, it will ask you for your typical Google login. When you log into Google AI Studio, you should see something like this. Right? You should be able to see the AI Studio. You have home, you have chat, build, dashboard, documentation, all of these things. Right? I have logged in with my URL. Now you can go and click on Get API Key. Here you can create an API key in the free tier, and it's fairly simple. You go ahead and click Copy API Key.
Subbu, font size is very low because your monitor might be.
Is this
Yeah,
better?
it is better. Better.
Yeah. So very simple. Go ahead and click on Copy. So create an API key. That should show up a line item here, and then in the free tier you can create only one API key, but then you can copy the API key, and I'll show you how to go ahead and add it to OutSystems as well. Yeah, so let's go back to your model window. Okay, now what we are going to do here is I'm going to, let me there are two things you're going to need. One is the URL, and I'll share the URL path with you guys so that you can add that accordingly. Okay, so I've pasted the URL in the chat. Obviously, I'm not going to be pasting my API key, but yeah, I mean the URL. You can copy the URL from the chat and paste it in the gateway. So where's the, and there you go. So here we will go ahead and add an endpoint. So in the endpoint, let's add the URL key that we added. So which is sorry, go ahead and remove all of these. Okay, so this is the URL that you need to put. Now, in the case of Gemini, I want to put 2.5 Pro. So if you go to the Google Studio and you look at, if you want to look at usages, you can see what was the usages I have using and what are the different models that are available. Let's look at all models, and here, so we want to look at the 2.5 Pro. So that's the
We
model.
don't see the screen if you are sharing.
Sorry.
Yeah, now we can.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll just come back. I'll just show you how to come back here. So if you go to usage and billing, go to rate limits, you should be able to click on all models here, and that'll list out all the models that are available with that API key. And we'll pick your Gemini 2.5 Pro model. So that's your model key. You want to copy that over and then go back to your OutSystems tab and paste that both in the name and the model ID. Now remember one thing, the URL for Gemini is also model specific. So you also need to go ahead and replace this text with the model. Now, having done that, I'm going to essentially take my API key. I'm going to add that API key here, and I'm going to test my endpoint. So if you've done everything correctly, you should see a success message here, which means that your endpoint has been added properly. Click on save. I'm going to go ahead and add this as my Gemini Pro 2.5. And we'll go ahead and save this. Now, notice that it does give you the option to add multiple endpoints. And this is something that I want to spend a little bit more time on here as well. OutSystems model management is actually fairly robust. So there are a couple of things you can do. And this is initially for those who are trying out. So if you have multiple API keys, you can add multiple endpoints here. So you can do load balancing here automatically. So if you have multiple endpoints, you can add multiple endpoints here. Now, you can also tag this just as Gemini. Let's say you want to, you can call the model as Gemini only. So let's go ahead and just call it Gemini. And what I'm going to do is, on first priority, I always want to use the Pro model, or it could be the other way around. I may want to use the Flash model instead of the Pro model. And I might want to use second priority a Flash model and third priority a Flashlight, right? So I can go ahead and add another endpoint. Let's call this, uh, the Gemini Flash. What was that? So I'm going to take 2.5 Flash here. Okay, so we go ahead and put 2.5 Flash here. In my URL, I'm going to put that again, which is, what is that? Yeah, that one there. So And again, as I said, replace your model ID in the URL as well for Gemini. Okay, and then we will drop in the API key again. Okay, and then test the endpoint and hit on save. Now I'm going to move my Pro to my priority 2. I'll try and use my Flash first and then go to Pro. So the model OutSystems will automatically handle this when there's an agentic AI call. When there's an agentic AI call, if you've run out of tokens on your first endpoint and your endpoint fails, it will automatically retry on the second endpoint. Yeah. So that is another a good built-in mechanism for load balancing as well as model management. Okay. As is the case with your in the configuration, you can edit and put a limit on number of tokens that you want to use per day so that you don't exceed the rate limits. And if you look at the usage and billing, and you look at the rate limits, Gemini does give you fairly decent rate limits. So the Pro is limited to two requests per minute. The Flash is to 10 requests per minute, but you do have many more, right? You have Flashlight, which is 30 requests per minute, and does a fairly decent job. You have 2.5 Flashlight, which is also 15 requests per minute, and about 125 or 225,000 tokens per minute, which is a significant amount. So the reason I'm showing Gemini is because I found it to be most generous as far as R&D tokens are concerned. You don't have a hard limit, lifetime limit. You can it resets at the end of the day, so it's a good model to play with. Yeah. All right. Now let's go back to our data models here, or AI models. Now let me go ahead and show you how to set up. If you want to set up your own, connect to your own AI model as well. I have Olama running, and let me see if I can bring that up and share what I have with you. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing here. Share my screen. All right. So I have Olama running here, and right now I've got a whole bunch of models downloaded and loaded. I've got Quen 3 7 billion, Quen 14 billion. I've got most of the Gemma models. I've got a Granite model as well. So let me go ahead and select Gemma 1B, for example, and I'll give you a quick hi. What's 2 plus 2? And we should expect it. And this is running locally on my machine, running on my GPU. Fairly simple prompt and fairly simple answer. And what it does is essentially loads the model to memory. Now you can use a service known as ngrok, and I'll share that as well. Let me share my screen. So Olama is a fairly simple application. You should be able to download it. If you need more inputs on how to actually do this, I have a forum post on OutSystems. Take a look at that. But this is essentially ngrok, where you can go and create a login. Again, you can set it up on Windows, Mac, Linux, Docker Desktop, Raspberry Pi. I have two instances of AI running locally on my home lab. One is on my workstation laptop, and the other is on Raspberry Pi 4, running the small language models to do the simple tasks. Yeah. All right. So you go and you set it up. You add your configuration, and then you can look at your authorization token. You can generate an authorization token. You can just copy paste this in command line, and essentially when you run your PowerShell script, it should look something like this, right? Let me go ahead and stop this and start this up again. So it should look like this. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So this is your ngrok website. I'll put this in the chat as well. Let me go ahead, just add that quickly in the chat. Okay. And you can set it up, you can create your own endpoint, and it gives you one endpoint for free that you can set up. Now this will be useful for us when we actually try to connect our local models with our systems. So all you need to do is open your PowerShell or CMD and run ngrok. I can stop it and sort of just show you how to set it up again. Now, notice this is typically the default value for Olama. You can change this. So if you go to Olama settings, in Olama, if you go to settings, you can expose Olama to the network, to other devices on the network. And here you can set the context length that you're willing to accept. So you can also see airplane mode, but that means that you will end up not allowing web search, and that's okay if that is what you want. And let's go ahead and run the ngrok service. So now the service is up and running and it's pointing to my Olama server. So I'm going to take that particular URL here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and copy that URL. Oops. Okay. That URL. So if I hit that URL right now, it will essentially tell me that Olama is running. So that is working fine for me. I'm going to go ahead and uh, go back to our AI models. In the AI model, let's go ahead and add a new model here. I'm going to add a custom connector. Let's call this Gemma 3 1B, 1 billion model. This is the small language model. Go ahead and add an endpoint. So I'm going to put the endpoint here. Now remember, for Olama, you need to take the URL that you get and add a V1 at the end. This is for the format for the OpenAI API spec. Okay, I'm going to say Gemma 3:1B, and my model ID is Gemma 3:1B. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit test endpoint, and what you should see, if you can see my screen, is there's a chat completions uh, call that came through, and that I think we missed the prompt here, but yes. So now you have it's tested it successfully. We can just do that once again, just to see a quick. Yep, there you go, and go ahead and hit save. Yeah. So now I have my Gemma 3:1B connected to my OutSystems platform, and it's that simple. Yeah. All right. So that's another thing. I made this mistake a couple of times. When if you don't save the what do you call, there are two configurations. One is the endpoint configuration, one is the AI model configuration. I have often made changes here and not saved here, and that's caused me to sort of redo that step. Let's quickly verify whether everything is okay. Yeah, looks okay, looks fine. Go ahead and yeah, cancel configuration is fine. All right, so now we've done two important things. We've created our OutSystems environment, and we've created our AI model configuration. I'll stop here if we have any questions so far, because this is important for us to be able to move forward. Any questions on what we've covered so far? Okay. All right. So We've covered the first and second step, and I've shown you how to do this as well. The Agentic AI training, this link, I will let you guys go through it. It is fairly involved, and I don't think we will have enough time to go through it in full detail. But I will walk you through one of the models, one of the Agentic AI applications that we have done, especially for the agent versus zombies task. I will show you it running from my local instance as well, and we'll walk through all the basic concepts on that as well. Yeah. All right. Okay. Before we do that, let's understand how do we implement AI agents in OutSystems as an overview. So AI agents in OutSystems basically have four components or five components. Right. There's the AI model, which we just configured. There are actions, which are essentially our service actions that you can call within the agentic AI application. There's grounding data, which is data we collect and provide to the agent, to the model, to be able to contextualize the request. System prompts, which are your guardrails, and memory that gives it state persistence. Okay, so let's dive deeper into each one of these. The AI model, as we discussed, is it acts as the agent's brain, and you can select any provider, you can select any model, like we discussed. It applies reasoning and it allows the agent to think through the problems. Now, be very careful about that statement because it depends on the model you're using. For example, if you're using a Gemma 3 1 billion parameter model, it does not have reasoning built in. It will do simple text or simple prompt generation. Whereas the larger models do allow for prompt for reasoning as well as thinking. There are certain models which are specifically called TTS or TSS, or they will call out some other functionalities as well, where they can handle multiple modes of inputs. They can handle text as well as audio, video, chat, and documents and so on and so forth. There are some models which are tuned or designed for tool calling, have the tool calling ability. For example, Claude does, Gemma 3B 4 billion does. I think 4 billion doesn't, but the 12 billion parameter does. So you have to be very, very careful in the model that you choose for the agent that you are planning, right? And that will require a little bit of a study of the model capabilities. Since the model is going to act as the brain, you need to choose the appropriate brain. Yeah. All right. So, and integration with these AI models, as we saw in OutSystems, is extremely easy and simple. Next is actions. Actions, like we discussed, give autonomy to the agent to do to take decisions or do actions on your behalf. It is not a mandatory component for an agentic AI framework, but it it can and should ideally be used so as to be able to effect or take a decision or take an action on behalf of the customer. So it could be tools like your service actions, it could be API calls, it could trigger workflows. It can also initiate an existing workflow that brings a human in the loop. So imagine an agentic AI framework where you have, let's say, a loan origination system with a loan being applied. There is an smart underwriter which analyzes the candidate profile and decides whether that candidate is suitable for green channel. If it is, it will go through the automated workflow process. If it is not, it will divert it to a manual workflow process, thereby doing the orchestration at that level. Yes. Then you've got grounding data. Now, grounding data, this, in my opinion, this and memory are the two things which can either define whether an AI implementation is successful or whether it crash lands on the very first try. And an AI agent can only act upon the context that is given to it. Yes, they are trained models and they can rely on those trainings, and try and give you an output, but you generally do not want the model to respond on the basis of the data that it has been trained on. You want the model, you want the AI agent to respond on the basis of specific business context that applies to your requirement or your request. This is where retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, is a very, very powerful pattern that allows you to augment your prompt with additional specific business data that will help the agent take an accurate decision and response. This data is confined and secured within that prompt, within that transaction. Since the model is stateless, it generally does not store this data in its model. However, if you are more cautious about your customer data, if it is PII data, you may choose to run it on locally hosted AI models instead. Now, RAG in OutSystems is extremely simplified and extremely powerful, right? In most other application development platforms, or in high code application development platforms, you have to put in a significant amount of effort to be able to collect the data, mash it up, structure it, and then add it to your prompt profile, to your input profile. However, in OutSystems, it is extremely simple. You can do it with three different types of tools. You can do it with aggregates, where you can simply fetch an aggregate and then use the build messages platform, or the pattern, to convert that aggregate data. First, serialize it into a JSON, and then add it to the prompt, to the messages that is sent to the agent. You can also use REST APIs or other service actions to fetch information, including files and documents, and append it as a part of the message structure. You can also use other retrieval augmented generation tools such as Azure AI Search and AWS Kendra. If you have your data sets in those repositories, you can use Azure AI Search and AWS Kendra to get only the information that you need, to add to the context and pass it on. Now, OutSystems, the ODC data fabric, also allows you to merge multiple sources, internal and external, together and create a mashup, and then use that for your RAG as well. So in this way, even if your OutSystems platform or your agentic AI platform is in ODC, you can still ground it with data from your O11 applications, or even from your legacy applications. So your grounding data sources are not limited only to what is in ODC. It can also be brought in from external legacy data sources, from your data warehouses, and from third-party APIs as well. All right. I'll take a quick pause here before we move ahead. Any questions? Okay. All right. Next are system prompts. Now, system prompts are equally important. These are your guardrails, right? This is how you tell your agent how to respond, what to prioritize, what tone to adopt. A typical system prompt would look something like this. You're a highly accurate financial data extraction agent. Your role is to analyze images or documents of bank statements and extract transaction details into a structured JSON format. You may choose to add an additional statement saying do not respond in natural language, right? So it will not give you any explanation, no reasoning. It will give you purely structured output. You can add additional key instructions saying do not invent any information. If you don't find any information in the document, use a sensible default like null, NA, or zero, or you can define use only this. Similarly, you can, for example, if you want to classify um, transaction types, you can also define that classify all transaction types as either credit or debit. So these are additional guardrails you can put. You can also put guardrails saying that if if the request is if the request has parameters not related to a bank statement, ignore that and do not respond to that request. So you can set up much more sophisticated guardrails around this. Now, guardrails and system prompts are extremely important, especially when you're doing it in production, for production applications, because let's imagine you have a chatbot, and the chatbot is to help customers uh, solve their requirements or solve their problems. You don't want your chatbot giving opinions on geopolitics or on any other requirements that it is not trained on, or it does not have the grounding data to answer accurately. There may be many pieces of information that you don't want it to respond to. So those are additional guardrails that would be a part of your system prompts. Yes. Okay. All right. Then we've got memory. Now, memory, in my opinion, is going to be the biggest problem that currently limits AI, and is also going to be the one that is going to unlock potential. Memory is the ability for an agent to be able to access relevant information of communications from the past. It can also be used to recall other agent interactions for a particular session in a multi-agentic workflow. It can enable the agent to learn and improve over a period of time. This is something that we saw in the agent versus zombies task, where we had many people who created custom memory templates where they stored specific information about how to identify a dangerous environment, right? So you can have the agent learn from its mistakes and store those learnings in a persistent memory pile, which is a long-term memory, versus short-term memory, which is data that is required context for that particular session, right? So short-term memory templates and long-term memory templates are also something that you can use and leverage effectively, so that you're not storing everything that you learn in long-term memory. There is some data that will be relevant only to the current context or the current session, and that is committed in short-term memory, and that's recalled, and that is purged at the end of that particular transaction. And you have long-term memory, where you can identify edge cases and possible user corrections to that edge case for the model to learn from going forward. So let's say there was an example where the model was not able to identify a particular transaction type. So the user can give a correction in a web form, saying that this response was incorrect and this should have been the correct response. That information can be stored in long-term memory and can be passed on with the agent in the next subsequent run, so that it takes that input as well going forward. This allows you for better configurability and runtime control over the agent and its performance, as well as accuracy. Yeah. Now, memory again, as is with humans and with machines, um, store too much, and there is, if you have too much things that you're trying to analyze, it is going to have an impact on your performance. Also, the cost, depending on what models you're using. And if there is too little memory that is retained, then obviously you're not getting the most out of, you're not able to utilize the learnings of your model and your agent, and therefore it will eventually have the impact on accuracy and reliability of the model. One thing that is very important while evaluating these agents is um, the fact that the agent runs successfully for a couple of runs is in no means a validation that the model works. There is extensive amount of training, ideally with fuzzy logic driven prompts that you would want to use to test all possible edge cases for your agent, right? So more so with agentic AI, testing will become extremely critical and extremely important to ensure that production applications always deliver the accuracy, performance, and reliability that a particular organization needs. Yeah. Now, in addition to these, things that become even easier in OutSystems is tool calling. So for models that support, you can in the agentic AI call select which actions you want to call, and you can give an explanation description in terms of what that action is, when it should be called, and what data is required. The AI will understand the context and will accordingly call the action as required and use that input additionally to analyze and answer this question. This is something that is effectively demonstrated in the exercise, which is in the agentic AI training. Please do look at that and try it out for yourself. That is again something that's very easy to do within OutSystems, where most other high code or other platforms do have a little bit more involved process for tool calling. Structured outputs, as we discussed, you can put this in the prompt, as well as you can also put it in the AI model call itself. Here you can see an example of structured output where the agentic AI call output will return only this structure, right? Makes it easier for you to take the output and use it for your actions and drive, for example, uh, decisions or actions in the agentic AI workflow. Okay. Now, we'll discuss broadly some agentic AI patterns that you can use to make your workflows more effective. Yeah. The the simplest pattern is the sequential agent system, where you've got a sequence of AI agents. You've got in this particular case, you've got, let's say, a document checker and classifier. You've got a credit and income assessment agent. You've got a BRE validation agent, and you've got a customer task creation agent. So each of these agents process their information and pass on that information to the following agent. Like, for example, in this step, let's assume that the applicant has uploaded a whole bunch of income documents, bank statements, salary slips. The document checker and classifier will analyze those documents, extract the key data sets from it, and pass it on to the credit and income assessment agent. That agent can then take that information, collate it, use tools to be able to analyze the income, the available income, the obligations, and get your what do you call disposable income calculation, which in turn can be sent to the BRE agent, which can compare it against the policy document, see whether those income requirements satisfy the policy documents, and provide an output for the possible loan that can be offered to the customer, and identify if there is any missing information required. Now, assuming that everything is okay, it can either create a loan application sign off or IMD form task, or it can ask for additional information and create customer tasks for the next steps in the process, right? So this is a pattern that you can call a sequential agent system or sequential agent pattern, where you've got multiple agents handling tasks in sequence, one behind the other. Yep. The other pattern is the concurrent agent system. So this is where you can have parallel tasks processing, where you can have different agents for different tasks, or different models, or different agents with different models for the same task. Now, depending on what kind of use case you have, you could have, for example, three different models running the same task, and a central agent identifying the output from all the three and picking the one that believes is the best output. Similarly, you can have, in this particular case as shown, three different agents for three different tasks, like PII data extraction and masking, account statement analysis, and property document data extraction. So you have a document processor agent which identifies and classifies the documents, sends the corresponding document to the corresponding agent, retrieves that information, processes that information, and then sends it forward to the next agent in the loop. Right? Similarly, can be done. So you may want to use a locally hosted model for PII data extraction and masking, while you may use readily available agents or bots for account statement analysis, property data, document extraction, and so on and so forth. Right? So this is one pattern again where you can use multiple models either for the same task or for different tasks, all of which can be executed in parallel with one orchestrating agent. Yeah. Okay. Uh, the next AI pattern is a handoff agent system. Now, this is a more complex workflow pattern where you can have an initial agent that identifies and classifies the requirement and then hands it off to independent workflow systems. So let's assume you have a customer service agent, manager agent, which receives a request, identifies what type of request it is, and then hands it off to that agent system. So if it's a foreclosure request, it goes to the foreclosure agent, who in turn has got two sub agents for accounts and for credit to get the relevant information and find the relevant decisions for those corresponding details. Same goes for the self-service helper agent as well, where it could be a very simple action. He wants, let's say, his bank statement or his loan statement. It goes in, uh, connects with the relevant systems, gets the information, creates an email document, gives a highlight or summary, and then sends it out to the customer. And then the third example could be where the customer is interested in a top up. The top up agent, it is handed off to the top up agent, who then has a conversation with the customer, takes additional information as required, passes it on to the underwriting agent, who decides whether this is a green channel flow or a non green channel flow. If green channel, divert it to ops and have that loan automatically approved and dispersed if it is within all the policy statements. If it is not, diverted to a human in loop and carry on the process that way. So these are some agentic AI patterns. Of course, there are many more patterns available, but these are some that I have come across, which I thought would be handy for you guys to be aware of from a starting point. It's obvious that you will see sort of combinations and patterns of each other in this. Like for example, you can have the third one has both sequential as well as um, uh, parallel agentic flows. So you can use a combination of all of these AI patterns to decide what fits best for your business needs. Okay. All right. Now this is where I walk you through the code that I wrote for the Maze Runner. Of course, there was a pre-built code that we modified, but I wanted to show you guys some of the approaches that we discussed in the code right now. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. While I bring up the code, are there any questions that you have? I see one hand raised from Ved. Yeah, Ved, go ahead. Hello. Ved, if you're speaking, you're on mute. All right. We'll come back to Ved soon. All right. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Very good afternoon.
Hello. Yes, Ved, you're
Yes,
audible. Go
yes.
ahead.
So I have one question.
Yes.
Can agent perform integration just by giving its command?
Can you repeat that statement?
Can agent AI perform integrations just by giving it commands?
No. So I assume you're asking whether if you provide an API spec, will the agent automatically know how to connect to that agent? No. You will have to expose or consume that API endpoint, and then you can expose that if it's in another module. You can expose that as a service and consume it within the agent as an action. You can optionally expose those APIs or consume those APIs, as you can see on the screen, within the API integrations here, and then use them here as well. Yeah, so you can for tool calling. They need to be inherited as a part of the dependencies, and then you can use them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Subramaniam.
yeah,
Please continue.
yes. So let, in this example, I'll try and see if I can. I don't know if I can get the text bigger, but is this visible? I can zoom in on the flows, but so for the agents versus zombie, what was originally provided, we had a fairly simple uh, flow. So you had where the game was launched, you would figure the next run from the API, and you call the agent flow. This is at the crux of it. So in the agent flow, what do we have? In the agent flow, you've got the grounding data. Now, in the grounding data, what we're doing is we are fetching data from memory, where what was the data, what did the agent encounter in his previous run. So if you go and look at the memory, you can see that in the memory you have the session ID, the content, the role, and in the content, what was the action it took and why it took that action. Yeah. Right? So it moved to north, that was the coordinates, and the result was a success. It moved to east, and the result was a success. It moved to south 1 1, and the result was death. And it gives you a session ID here as well. So the session ID is useful for you to pick only memory from that particular session. Since you're trying to solve the problem for that particular maze, you want to learn only from that session's attempt, and the previous data is not relevant. So in order to fetch that context, it is important for you to identify which session data you're pulling. So if you go back to the grounding data, you fetch the memory. So one of the changes that I made was it was first fetching all the memories indiscriminately and passing them along. Instead, what I did was fetch memory specifically that resulted in death for that particular agent, where we saw that the index was greater than 0. So you found those specific death memory points for that particular session. And in that grounding data, sorry, labeled that data as unsafe coordinates. Right, as unsafe coordinates. Now after that is done, then we append all the memory sessions there from the grounding data. Then we get all the safe coordinates and then add that as safe coordinates, and then give it the additional context saying that this is your current run context. The current run context is nothing but what you get from the game API saying that this is your current position, now pick the next position. Right? So this is how you can fetch and you can categorize and structure your memory data also by giving it context saying these are all unsafe coordinates, these are all safe coordinates. This results in better performance as opposed to just giving all of the um, context memory as it is. Now, just as a side note, I don't know how many of you saw my LinkedIn post about me having lost my ODC environment today morning just before our session today. I thought I had backed it up, but apparently my backup was a little older. I did have another memory structure implemented in place, Now, the problem with this memory context is that it is too verbose, too many words, which means that the number of tokens are very, very high. And that in turn ensure, a lot of high token usage and performance impact. Instead, if you just store the content and the result as success, then you can just send the coordinates as an array, instead of sending the entire uh, context. Now here again, moved north, moved east. The moving to the moving direction is not actually relevant, because in the current path, the cell that you might end up going to, the last time you may have moved north to get to that cell, but this time you may have moved south to get to the same cell. So this can cause some confusion for the AI agent, and it assumes, because it sees that multiple times when you moved north it was safer, it assumes that moving north is safer, right? This is one of the things I got in the reasoning output. So if you go to the attempt log, you will see the reasoning as well. And you might see that in the reasoning, sometimes it may indicate that moving north is generally safer, so I'll move north, right? So that is one of the things that you might want to look at as well. Okay, so that's your grounding data and building grounding. The next is actually building them as messages. So once you get the grounding data, then you build your system message. Now the system message has two parts. There is the system prompt. Now in the system prompt, these are some additional prompts which some of the fellow developers had added, which is already there on the forums, but if you want, I can share it as well. It gives you an overall. Now what I was going to try and explore, and which I will do in the next few weeks, and I'll share those on my LinkedIn post as well as on the forums. um, all of these prompts have been added manually by the developer after seeing the agent performance. But what I am trying to do, or what I'm trying to solve, and we'll see if it works or not, is to be able to add these guardrails on the fly, where I have another agentic AI analyze this agent's performance and optimize the guardrails and system prompts. That way, the guardrails are constantly improving, because there is a phenomenon which most of you, if you know about AI and ML, will know, called model drift. Because the model is trained on a particular set of conditions. As the conditions drift, the model performance drifts, and therefore it needs to be corrected. If that is something that can happen either automatically or in a semi-automated manner, where the agent can analyze the performance and suggest the changes in guardrails, which a human can then review and update, will help in the overall AI model governance, or the ML ops that you will have to implement in addition to DevOps for agentic AI applications. Yeah. So you build your messages. Now in your messages, typically when you're building messages, you will build your system content messages, you will build your user messages, your grounding data, you've added it, and then you will add the user message. In this case, user messages find the antidote. And then all of this is sent to the agent flow. Now in the agent flow, there's an additional change that I made in the pattern, which is I've set the get grounding data. So you get the grounding data, you build the model. Now, imagine this, for this particular context, or for this contest, the number of tokens that you had for Claude, which is their most powerful, that at least that you can access, model, has very limited number of tokens, right? And we had many people running out of tokens towards the end. Unfortunately, I cannot show you my previous instance, but at the end, while it did take it significantly larger number of runs, so probably not one of the most efficient implementations, but while it did take it about, I think, 8 runs for me in the final maze to solve it, it did solve it on the first attempt. It took 8 runs. but my model, my context utilization, and my number of calls for Claude had reached only about 26% utilization from what was available on the platform, and people had run out of the number of context parameters. They had run out of number of tokens as well as number of calls. And one of the reasons that was possible was because of agent laddering, as you can see here. So in this case, I have, if you go to the automations, I have got multiple agents. I've got Gemma, Granite, Gemini, and Claude. Now, in this setup, what I have is it first tries with Gemma, which is my smallest model, the 4 billion parameter model. Then, if that was successful, great, nothing like it. If that is not successful, the next try, it tries for Granite. If that is able to solve it, great. I've been able to solve it without paying for the premium or consuming my paid tokens, right? And if both of these are not able to solve the problem, then it tries with Agent Claude, which invariably almost 100% of the times succeeded, right? Um, so this setup helped me. One is explore whether this is even possible, which obviously it is possible now that we know that. And two, this strategy is also a reflection of what we saw in one of our agentic AI patterns, where you can have concurrent or parallel threads or laddering of agents within a particular workflow, or laddering of models within a workflow. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and see how this works. So if you look at the settings in the configurations, I had set up one more additional setting, which is called multimodal mode. Now, if that is not set to true, then by default it will use Claude. But if that is set to true, then it will use Gemma first, then Granite, and then Agent Claude, right? So if you go to Olama right now, and let me see if I can share my screen real quick here. So we'll go ahead and stop sharing, start sharing again, and this time share the entire screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yes, visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, so I'm going to try and create sort of a tiling for you guys so that you can see what it looks like. And let me bring in my task manager here as well. Let's go to performance there. Let's move that. Okay, just swap that out. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move this guy out here, and then let's come back here. Okay, so we take the smallest one first, just to for the purposes of the demo, because it does take a little bit of time, and I don't want my GPU crapping out and the session to end. All right, but to sort of show you an example, so you can see right now we have the Granite model, or rather the 1 billion parameter model loaded, right? Because that is what we used for our initial chat. Now, the good thing about this setup is that because when I call for 4B now, it will automatically load the model on the very first attempt. It will load it to memory, execute it, and then switch the model as required. I'm going to go ahead and click on new attempt for the beginner model. What you should see is the moment it says the agent is trying, I should be able to see an event here where I see the chat API called. Yeah, there you go. Now that should trigger an API call here. There you go. And now you will see my GPU starting to ramp up. and the memory starting to load in. So my model will start getting loaded here. There you go. You're starting to see some load. I'm trying to see the model getting loaded onto memory. The first load is always something that's a little time consuming because it needs to swap. I have limited memory, so it needs to dump the old model and bring in the new model. But the fact that it can run headless and allow me to test out various models on the fly without really needing to test it out is a handy feature. Um, so let's once that runs, once a model is loaded, you should see the 200 come in here, which would make its first move and then second move and so on and so forth. Right. So while that is running, any questions on whatever we've covered so far? Any comments on what was discussed and any additional inputs that you might want to look at? I am seeing some. Okay, explain a little bit more about terms like RAG. Yes, we will do that. Goldie's question: did varying the temperature help? Yes. So by default, where you want a deterministic output, you want to set the temperature to 0, which means it's more repeatable. Depending on creative tasks, you want to set it to higher. Now, even if you set it to 0, that does not necessarily mean repeatability is always at 100%. It will reduce the intended perturbations or variances in the prompt, but the inherent variation in the model will still remain. So that's a problem that they have not been able to resolve yet. I think that's still something that the LLMs and SLMs work with. So you can see that just working on my local GPU, obviously it's a 2x2, so it's a fairly simple prompt, but we were able to complete that successfully. Right now, let me go ahead and switch this to the 4x4. And let's start that attempt. Now you will see again the model getting switched. Right now, because Gemma 4B is already there, it will not change anything. It will simply run. And it'll actually run faster because the GPU is warmed up and the systems are warmed up. But yeah, so once that runs, and I am hoping it fails, because when it fails, you will see the second agent switching over. You'll see the model switch over, and then you will see the pipeline run as well. So we've had our first step here. It's gone there. It is slower when you're running on a 5-year-old laptop with a 2 GB VRAM, but nevertheless, it's still fascinating that I can do this on my own on-prem implementation and connect it to an ODC cloud instance. So that's fantastic. While that's going on, let me answer a few more questions. Could you explain the term RAG a little bit more? RAG is, let me simplify this for you. It is to say that when I come and ask you to do, take a decision, I will tell you, should Subbu get a home loan or not? Now, that question on its own will not yield a proper response. It'll give you some response, but it will not give you the right response, not necessarily the right response, right? So at that point, you want to give it more context. So you can fetch the all Subbu submitted documents, his driving license, his PAN card, his banking documents, all of these. You can give that additional context in addition to the question, saying, my question is, should Subbu be given a home loan? This is his details that he has submitted, and based on that, the agent has to take an input. So now, in addition to that, you give it the policy document as well. So it takes all of the information you've given it, compares it against the policy document, and tries and gives you an output. So retrieval augmented generation basically means that you have a prompt or a user question that is augmented with data retrieved from your business data, which is why the word retrieved, and you add it to the context, therefore it's augmented, and that is then given to the agent to generate the output. Therefore it's your retrieval augmented generation. That's essentially trying to sort of make it simple, as simple as possible, right? Now, the agent is an out-system wrapper which works on AI, does not have its own AI model. Yes, correct. You're absolutely right, Adarsh. The AI model, looks like Gemma won this one as well. Hmm. Okay. But yeah, so if we talk about, uh, yeah, looks like it, yeah, it ran just perfectly fine and went through as well. But yeah, ideally you would have seen it switch over. Hopefully, maybe I'll try one more one where, let me try the newest map. I'm sure it'll fail at this one. Ooh, that's interesting. But yeah, let's see if that works. I'm pretty sure it'll fail at this one, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me sort of reposition that a little bit so that it's available for everyone to see. There we go. All right, that's the model. Okay. While that's running, maybe I guess Goldie, I think all three will fail, but at least we'll see the model switch over from one to the other. Yeah. All right. So yes, OutSystems does not host any AI models, and I don't think it needs to. There are many AI model providers available. You can host your own AI model. So it's bring your model to the platform model, if you want to call it. Yes. With the help of RAG, it will help classification faster than doing it manually. That is correct. So not only will it help it classify faster, the fact is that RAG will ensure that you don't have any loss in or any hallucinations from the model based on data it does not have. That plus your system prompts should be able to tell you how to should be able to tell you how to should be able to tell the agent what should be the appropriate response. uh, Goldie, it has been fairly resilient here. To be very honest, I don't see it smoking yet, at least not so. I had it running some of those maps overnight. It, I think it ran about 20. Yeah, yeah, it is ventilated. It is on a pedestal and in an air conditioned environment, so should be okay for now. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially the essence of of what. There you go. So it's moving a bit, but uh, I don't know whether we'll be able to show you this. But if you want to look at, I can bring up the attempt log, and you can see in the attempt log the switchover in one of the previous examples that it did fail, right? So um, here, if you see one of the older responses, yeah, so Gemma here at this point it had failed. So you can see that it says, too bad you were killed by fire, you're dead. And then at that point, then it switched over to Granite and started working there. I stopped the model at that point. It gives you an idea of how that switchover happens. Yeah. All right. We are nearing the 4 p.m. mark. So beyond this, let me go back to my presentation. We'll let the model run in the end, and hopefully we'll be able to see whether it is able to solve it or not towards the end. Yeah, see, it is struggling. It's going back and forth on multiple. I think it's got maybe hit a fog or something there. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Let me go ahead and in the meantime bring up the PPT again. Okay. So let me stop sharing and sharing my PPT instead. Okay. All right. So, agentic AI applications. These are some. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive. The second GPU. So I don't actually have two GPUs. I need a lot more moolah to come in from somewhere else to have a two GPU setup. But Olama by default does not support a multi GPU setup. Even if you had, you want to use something like VLLM or LM Studio, which does allow you to pool multiple GPUs. No. So the iGPU doesn't. So it's either the iGPU or the NVIDIA GPU. Olama does not support using. It's just one core per GPU module here. So, but yeah, you can get much more optimized flow by using other model runners like LM Studio or VLLM or some of these other model runners, which give you more fine granular what do you call controls over it. All right. Agentic AI applications. These are obviously some, but there are many more examples which you can already see out in the real world. Agentic AI LOS origination systems for customer support. We saw some examples that I showed you in the workflows. Document analysis for you to be able to. So, being able to do sensitive data analysis on your own instances is something that you can do. A lot of manual handwritten documents. So I think DeepSeek OCR as well as some other models have come now are very good at OCR, and therefore it can be used for document scraping and analysis, which are not as time sensitive as probably real time chat applications. Smart PD, where you can have the agent chat with the customer and do the PD documentation, personal discussion, and try and get as much information as possible. Agentic AI insurance claims management. I don't know how many of you were at the one Bangalore developer conference, one conference at Bangalore. Not exactly one conference, but the developer meetup. If you know what I'm saying, we had Parth demonstrate agentic AI workflow there, which was also extremely impressive. Of course, these are all POCs. There are some real world applications as well in manufacturing and retail, agentic supply chain management, vendor management, RFQ management. These are all potential applications that you can use for an agentic AI framework. What are the upcoming trends and patterns that I am seeing in the field? I think right up there is memory management, not just for professional enterprise grade applications, but even for I'm going to go ahead and stop my video. But yeah, even for personal use, memory management tools like Core is one of the tools, which is I think an Indian startup. There are many talented people trying to work to solve the memory management problem, where you can use graphing models for knowledge context and be able to get more out of the agent or the model, where it's much more efficient RAG. ML MLOps, this is going to become a very, very important core practice that you will need to follow. Prompt management and versioning. So in most of the patterns that we saw right now, the system prompt is stored in a configuration setting. But you probably want to have a better pattern to be able to manage it, because prompts essentially are codes. It's a part of your code. If the prompt changes, in fact, in the entire exercise that we did, I mean, it sort of is obvious, but the largest, the most sensitive piece of the puzzle is the prompt. The smallest of changes in the prompt make the biggest of changes. Superior caching, yes. Superior caching and relevant caching, right? Um, because at the end of the day, for these applications to scale up, you need to know what information to retain and what not to retain. You need to know what to fetch, and optimize your context. So absolutely right, Goldie. Superior caching, yes. At the same time, able to fetch knowledge retrieval systems are going to be, and memory management systems, I believe, at least, are going to be the two major areas that will help. Yes, the framework will help define what to cache, what not to cache. Uh, Absolutely, Goldie. And MLOps again is going to be very critical to maintaining and managing those frameworks. Um, there are new data formats that are being iterated. I don't know how many of you have heard of Toon, token optimized or token oriented object notation. It is a variation, or it's adapted from JSONs to make your tokens, your prompts more token efficient, bringing down your token utilization for many prompts by up to maybe 45%, which makes a big impact as you start scaling up. And I'm also seeing a lot of purpose built, fine tuned SLMs being rolled out for edge AI, for smaller tasks, for being able to scale up, because you don't need a GPT-5 for document scraping for your production. You can do that with purpose built, fine tuned LLMs, which are trained on data sets that you already have. Right. These are some of the trends that I've observed. I think Goldie had some fantastic points as well for those who are monitoring the chat. At this point, I will open the floor. Anyone who wants to share their thoughts on what we've discussed so far, um, we can go ahead. Um, this is essentially what I had. We will add more content both to the uh, to the to the post, as well as any new developments that I do. I will try and share on the forum posts as well. As a part of our user group, I can see a lot of people from all over the world today. Uh, Fantastic! Thank you for joining. And at this point, I think we'll just open it to the floor and take questions, so that we can have more participation and more exchange of ideas. Hello? Thank you, Goldie. Goldie, you want to share some thoughts? I know you're working on some interesting use cases. If you're open to sharing, let me see if I can find you and make you a presenter as well. Uh, there you are. Okay. All right. Goldie, you are a presenter now. You want to go ahead and share any insights you have?
Man, you are impromptu. You are impromptu pulling me in. We maybe the next time around. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm also just like you. Playing around a couple of use cases, and yeah, nothing that I can right now, right away show it, demo it the way you did. Amazing demo. But yeah, it's an amazing new field. Very exciting. The
Yes.
only big question that remains is, end of the day, what business value it is adding, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a non-technical problem.
Correct. Correct. True, true. I think that is also going to be interesting in setting the framework, as you mentioned, because I know you and I have had a discussion on this in terms of how you had these MIT studies being misquoted very often, saying that 97% failed, 97% failed. It's not that the AI implementation failed, it's just that the objective setting failed. I think to know what you want it to deliver, and what is the value addition that you're trying, the problem you're trying to solve, which is typical for any technical implementation, right? If you don't know what you're solving for, then it is bound to fail.
Exactly. And that is what, and at what cost, right? So maybe the same problem, yes, AI is solving better, but if what you end up spending in solving that problem is more than the value that you are getting, again, that's where it fails. And that's the problem, which probably, but anyways, being technical folks, we don't have to worry too much about it. But yeah, on the business side of things, of course, there is a lot that need exploration, right? Where and what use cases are worth, implementing.
Yeah, true. But Goldie, my only so I'll just differ a little bit in that sense that you're right, but I think that's also an area where I see a lot of compression happening in what is expected from a so-called technical developer anymore, right? Now with Mentor, of course, Mentor is good at what it can do. It's definitely not um, still, if you give it extremely complex, large requirements, you will still need to do multiple iterations, and I think that's where the speed comes from. But I think one aspect is that developers cannot just remain as developers and say, "Okay, hum to technical hai, we are technical guys, so we don't really care about business." I think that will need to change. As technology and especially AI makes it easier for non-technical individuals to be able to develop, do vibe coding, build applications, it is equally important that developers also understand business context and domains. Because at the end of the day, uh, the value is going to come in merging these two facets of problem solving together. And I think when that happens is when you'll be able to unlock potential from these AI models. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other points? Any other questions we had? What would you like to see in more detail in the next sessions? I think that would be a good input for you guys to share. Um, and do share your inputs in terms of what you would have want to see differently in this presentation as well, where we can add more detail, right? So as a part of this session, whatever assets I do end up creating, I'll start posting it on the forum post, the user group link, as well as on LinkedIn. You can definitely stay connected and follow it up. I You can also connect with me on ADP list as well as on LinkedIn, and let me know if there are any further questions that you would want to deep dive into. And for those who are keen to understand how my agent ended up doing, I did end up stopping the attempt, but it seemed to be happy just staying on that portion of the map, didn't want to move around much. So a lot more tuning, a lot more fine tuning is required. Eventually it did run out of moves, but yeah. So I think my learning here is that um, with OutSystems and with the frameworks that are available, the barrier to entry to getting involved with agentic AI and agentic AI applications has dropped significantly low. So much so that I had many of my non-technical friends uh, create an account on OutSystems for the agents versus zombies challenge, and they were able to get through the basic steps, and they had that sense of achievement saying, "Oh, I built an agentic AI app." Of course, It's all fun and games, but getting those concepts and understanding that those concepts are very important, very crucial. Every single day that I continue to work on this, I realize if it's even possible that I know lesser and lesser of what is available in the industry. It seems like every day when you get up in the morning, there's a whole new world of technologies and patterns which have emerged, and it seems like a never-ending learning cycle right now, which is, in my opinion, an exciting time to be alive. Uh, so yeah, I mean, if there are any questions on how to get set up, if you want to understand how to get your own local AI model up and running and working, do let me know. And if there's anything else you guys would like to deep dive on, let me know and we'll plan it for the future sessions. Thank you so much. If there are any more questions, we'll take them. Else we can close the session. Anuj, any oh, before you guys drop off, sorry, I hope nobody dropped out. We do have some surprises planned. So as a part of this masterclass, we're going to end with a forgeathon, a 1 week forgeathon, details of which will emerge shortly. But I can tell you we are planning for some fantastic prizes and a large number of them. So do continue to follow the masterclass series. I will be posting the next few events very soon, if possibly today itself. Do register for those events. We have some fantastic sessions coming up. We've got a session from Stefan Weber, who is one of the most amazing guys I've interacted with. The amount of effort he's put in to build without dot systems as a resource hub is just fantastic. He's going to talk about how you can use those resources, real world use cases, and we will try and create more demos and hands-on in these masterclass series so that you can follow along. Yeah. So stay curious, stay excited, and if you guys want to collaborate on or research or discuss anything related to agentic AI or OutSystems, do let me know. Reach out to any of the organizers. And we are planning to do the last session in a hybrid model, in locally as well as online. So all of you who can make it to Mumbai on the 13th of December, do plan for your tickets accordingly. And we will see you there, and we'll see you at all the other sessions coming up as well. All right, I'll take any final questions if there are. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending this session. It was a very nice interaction with all of you. A lot of good questions, a lot of good inputs. Hopefully this answers some of your questions on what is agentic AI and how you can get started with agentic AI and OutSystems. And we'll see you guys in the next session. Thank you so much.